Chapter 70. Cause and Effect 2. The pupils of the diamond sex ancestor contracted slightly and goosebumps rose in his heart. His footsteps instantly slowed down as he cautiously left this area step by step. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and speed up again. However, he didn't pursue or get too close. He had already realized how strange this youth was. At the same time, he knew that the other party had a method to cause the anomalous substances to instantly thicken. Hence, he didn't plan to get too close and forcefully attack. Instead, he planned to rely on his cultivation base to keep an eye on the other party and wait for daybreak before attacking. Although he was a foundation-building cultivator and had to be so careful when dealing with a check condensation cultivator, this matter would damage his reputation as a foundation-building cultivator. However, under such circumstances, the sex ancestor still decided to prioritize safety first. Hence, he slowed down and followed behind at a moderate pace. Xu Qing, who was at the front, also noticed this. He had originally simulated a counterattack method in his heart, and he had also completed the preliminary preparations for shadow control. He also held the black pill in his hand, waiting for the other party to get close. He was confident that even though the other party wouldn't be killed by his methods, he would still be in a sorry state and wouldn't be able to escape for a short period of time. Also, although he would also be heavily injured by the other party, escaping after being heavily injured would be more realistic. It wouldn't be easy for him to arouse suspicion and make it easier for him to plan his next step of attraction. However, this old ancestor of the Diamond sect was still so cautious despite being in the Foundation establishment realm. This made Xu Qing even more vigilant. However, although the other party didn't get close, Xu Qing felt that he still had to carry out his plan. Hence, he sped up and headed straight for the city lord's residence. Closer and closer. The location of the city lord's residence was at the center of the city. The anomalous substances here were denser than in other places, for some reason. The number of mutated beasts here was decreasing. This change caused the expression of the sex ancestor, who was chasing after them, to change slightly. The sense of danger in his heart was very intense at this moment. He lifted his head and looked at Xu Qing's back view before looking at the collapsed building at the side. His footsteps suddenly paused. He didn't continue to chase but started to retreat. This scene was something Xu Qing didn't expect. At this moment, he was still 1,000 feet away from the city lord's residence, but the diamond sex ancestor, who was chasing after him, wanted to retreat. It's still a little too late to retreat now. Xu Qing gritted his teeth fiercely. He suddenly lifted his right hand and waved it fiercely, causing a large number of black pills to scatter in all directions. This time, to achieve his goal, Xu Qing directly used half of the black pills he had left. At this moment, they landed in the surroundings and exploded simultaneously. In that instant, this place seemed to have transformed into a gigantic vortex, causing the anomalous substances in all directions to surge over, affecting the vote and distorting the surroundings, causing everything in sight to turn blurry. The density of anomalous substances had reached an astonishing level. This scene caused the expression of the diamond sex ancestor, who was currently retreating, to change. However, he was even more puzzled because Xu Qing's body was also within the dense anomalous substances. If this continued, putting aside the problem of mutation, just the mutated beasts and bizarre creatures that were attracted by the anomalous substances would cause Xu Qing to die without a burial ground. This was equivalent to suicide. Just as the sex ancestor was struggling, the city lord's residence, which was 1,000 feet away, suddenly trembled intensely. A series of earth-shattering and terrifying roars spread in all directions, abruptly spreading in all directions. The earth trembled and the blood moon in the sky turned blurry. The expression of the sex ancestor changed and the feeling of a life and death crisis instantly intensified. His pupils constricted and his body retreated rapidly. His eyes stared fixedly ahead as numerous figures flew out from a building that looked like a city lord's residence. These figures were all incomparably skinny, but they had black flaming wings. The density of anomalous substances on their bodies was astonishing, and wherever they passed, the voice seemed to distort. This scene caused the sex ancestor to be even more alarmed. What made his countenance turn even paler as he gasped was that as the explosion rang out, the city lord's residence collapsed, revealing a gigantic hole in the ground. A withered figure that was 1,000 feet tall crawled out of the cave with a roar that shook the sky. From afar, this figure was slender like a withered tree. The exposed part was already 1,000 feet long, but at that moment, it was obvious that it hadn't completely crawled out. It seemed to only have the upper body. Hence, it waved its arms and a large number of rotting vines instantly extended from its 10 fingers, shooting out in all directions and piercing into the ground. The furthest ones even pierced into the ground in front of the diamond sex ancestor. As though using this as a support, the gigantic withered tree-like figure sped up and climbed out. What the hell is this? The diamond sex ancestor's heart trembled wildly as he cursed in horror. His expression changed drastically like never before as he erupted with all his speed and retreated frantically. However, what made him even more frenzied was the sight of those winged figures, who were attracted by the anomalous substances and rushed out. After they rushed out of the city lord's residence, their target was the area with the concentrated anomalous substances formed by the kid using unknown means. However, for some reason, after these winged figures rushed into that area, they quickly crawled out and roared as they looked around. After that, they locked onto him and flew over. What's going on? Where is Thekid? Aloft, this caused the sex ancestor's eyes to widen. Even though his speed was astonishing, he was still caught up to very quickly. Amidst the rumbling sounds, the diamond sex ancestor was forced to make a move and he had no choice but to erupt in full force. Only then did those winged figures collapse. However, the strange thing was that they recovered in an instant and continued to pounce over. In the distance, in the huge cave where the city lord's residence was located, that terrifying existence was about to crawl out completely.